discipline. That's some discipline.
You're listening to Hart Beat Radio.
Good afternoon, the great fans of Hart Beat Radio. This is Bob Johnson coming to you live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We have an outstanding show today. We're going to be having part 2 of an incredible show that we did with Ken Patera, a former Olympian, WWE, AW wrestler. I'd like to introduce historian extraordinaire, filmmaker from Portland Wrestling, our co-host, Mr. Matt Merz. Welcome to Hart Beat Radio, Matt.
I'm very happy to be back here with you, gentlemen, as per usual. Excited to talk to our guest today and get the skinny on how he started his career.
And I'm turning it over to our host this afternoon, promoter, wrestler, booker extraordinaire from Calgary, Alberta, part of the famous Hart family, Mr. Bruce Hart. And welcome back, Bruce.
I'd like to thank Matthew and Ken. I had a great chat with Ken last time, and Ken's one of those guys who transcended the different eras, so he's got a lot of perspective. He was a world-renowned athlete before he got into the wrestling, and he did a lot of the really major territories back when there was territories. He was working in AWA, and he had a good run with Vince Sr. before the Hulkamania era and all like that, and to Japan and a lot of the places. So, he's got a lot of insights and perspectives about the business and about different wrestlers and different things like that. So, by that token, he's a really great guest, and the thing that I liked about Ken is he's very articulate, and he gets it, as they say. He understands the business and all the other, and he's pretty honest, but he's not one of those guys that's carrying agendas and got ulterior, motives and all that crap. He just tells it like it is, which is nice and refreshing these days, So, but yeah, I'll let you introduce Ken, and we'll just go wherever it goes.
Hey, before we go any farther, I thought we were going to be talking about the Brits leaving the EU. Isn't that what we're talking about? Huh?
What is your take on that, Ken?
I loved it. You got all those assholes over in Brussels, Belgium, a bunch of bureaucrats that don't know their asshole from Shinola. The thing is, they're telling everybody in Britain, you ready for this? You can't have a plug-in teapot because it'll destroy the ozone. Give me a break. Jesus. Let another 10 million, 12 million ragheads come in there. And then all those people can come over to Canada.
I'm glad the English sort of, that's one of the things that made them what they were, was they were pretty independent, and I was kind of intrigued that they were, in the last decade or two, they've almost been all thrown into this mix with all these people that have been enemies with them, the Germans and all that for years, and all of a sudden
United Kingdom, the sun never set on the United Kingdom. They went out and conquered the world. Now they're being conquered by a bunch of bureaucrats from the EU. What a bunch of BS that is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what what the fallout is, if anything. But yeah. Anyway, that's our take on world politics, and maybe we'll make that a regular part of it.
I don't want to get you guys in trouble for saying the wrong thing.
Maybe that'll be a part of the show, Bob. We'll do our weekly take on Donald Trump or whatever is Putin or whoever the hell every week.
There you go. I'd like to have Putin run as Donald Trump's vice president.
Yeah.
I would vote for that.
One or the other.
Yeah, these stupid Democrats down here in the States, they're always complaining, well, we got to get along with everybody. You know, the Republicans are too mean to everybody, so we have to go the other direction and get along with everybody. Well, just invite Putin over here to run with Donald Trump.
Yeah. You know, for people that want to get along with everyone, why do they never want to get along with Republicans? That's what I always wonder. Well,
Republicans are the Democrats' biggest enemy. They consider Republicans as enemies, not as opponents, enemies. I mean, they're a bunch of sick bastards.
Yeah.
Listen, with that in mind, I've actually I had a question from one of our callers, Carl from Missouri. He wanted to actually ask Ken his take on Jesse Ventura when he was running for. Was he a better wrestler or a better governor? Just a quick, since we're on politics.
Oh boy, that's a tough question. He was lousy at both. He had 2 left feet as a wrestler, and as a politician, he knew just enough to get himself in trouble. But he had the balls to go out, and great self-promoter, and they had a mayor of St. Paul and the ex-governor Hubert Humphrey's kid. We call him Skippy Humphrey.
Yeah.
And, he disposed of those 2 morons very quick. Any wrestler could have won the governorship that year.
I never ever heard anything good about his work. You know, I heard he was not bad on cutting promos or whatever, and then he never really amounted too much. And then next thing, he's one of Vince's color men. You know, that was, you know, I don't recall him ever working for Vince other than just doing the color commentating with. I think Vince was doing the commentating with him. You know, Vince was an announcer of that himself, and then he kind of evolved from there. And,
well, he went back there with. He went back to work for Vince with Adrian Adonis as a tag team, East-West Connection. Yeah, that's how that was.
Keith Franks or whatever.
Adrian was a hell of a worker, but he just carried Jesse along.
When he first got started, you know, he was in Central States for like 6 months, and then he came out here to Don Owens' promotion, and he teamed with Apache Bull Ramos, and he teamed with Playboy Buddy Rose, and the entire time they would just make him stand there and pose while they cut the promos.
It's funny when Billy Graham...
Buddy Rose came out there as Paul Pershman.
Yeah, he was one of Vern's...
Yeah, that's his real... Buddy Rose's real name was Paul Pershman. He's from...
I remember back in those days, Ken, Vern used to send Stu these effing pictures of all these guys he was breaking in.
Yeah.
And was Ric Flair was one of them, Paul Pershman and the Iron Sheik, and among others, you know. And we ended up with the Sheik up here who Stu was wondering if that was a rib too, you know.
Yeah. Well, you guys are the ones that made him an alcoholic and smoking marijuana and popping pills.
Yeah, he was. For some reason, he was kind of ribbed. Calgary was a bad territory for ribbing, and for whatever reason, I can't remember. I think Don Fargo and some of those guys who were in here at the time. A few of them, Don Fargo and Greg Valentine, and some of them, but they ribbed the poor Cosro. That's what is. We never called him the Sheik. He was a face up here, but
Cosro Vasuri was his real name.
He got ribbed into the ground. He was borderline nervous, having a nervous breakdown up here, and I think he ended up leaving the territory. You know, because they ribbed him so much. You know.
Yeah. I'll tell you a true story. The Iron Sheik went through a wrestling camp with me and Ric Flair the High Flyers, Jimmy Brunzell and Greg Gagne. And we were on our way up to Grand Forks, North Dakota one day. And Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch had just come into Vern Gagne's territory down here in Minneapolis, the AWA. So we all had to go up to
Grand Forks.
Grand Forks and Thief River Falls and some other outposts out in the wilderness. So anyway, we stopped at a little gas station somewhere in North Dakota. Somebody talked Cosrow into getting into the truck with Dick and Dusty. Well, they had one of those little like a pickup truck. Well, there's no room in that little thing for three guys, so they put Cosrow in the back. Well, within 2 minutes, Murdoch was driving. He was going 100 miles an hour, 110, 120. I mean, he had the pedal to the metal. And he was swerving back and forth, and Cosrow was in the back holding on to either side, up and down, and you know, it was like 45 degrees out. And so finally I caught up to him. I was going like 105. I couldn't keep up with them. So I got up alongside them after they slowed down, and I motioned Dick to pull over, so they pulled over. I said, hey, you guys, I said, this is bullshit. I said, that went on for like a half an hour. And I said, you can't be doing that. So I had Cosrow jump back in my car. And, oh, man, I'll tell you, they would have killed him. I mean, it was totally ridiculous. Yeah, 1973.
I think it was right just after that he wound up in Calgary, and everyone was perceiving it to have been a rib by Byrne or something. But
yeah, no,
he was like kicking around for I don't know how many years.
Yeah,
I think the only thing that seemed to turn him into anything was when they took the hostages, and all of a sudden Iran was, and I think he was the only Iranian wrestler in captivity, so they turned him into the Iron Sheik, and
right.
And, my dad had this other big.
He had bounced around for 8-9 years.
Yeah, and he was,
or not that long. Well, we all started in January of '73, and the hostage deal was 79.
Somewhere in there, and I think ushered in Ronald Reagan, in 1980.
Right, in 80, or 81, January of 81. And he came in, they brought Sergeant Slaughter in, and boy, what a box office gimmick that was.
Yeah, and he was kicking around for years, Slaughter, kind of, he was working up for Gene and Kovacs in Vancouver as, I think, Bob Remus, or something. He was getting
Bob
squashed.
Remus is his real name. He's from Minneapolis.
He's getting squashed most of the time. He was never going over, and my dad was intrigued because all of a sudden, Cosrow and Bob Remus were like the big ticket. My dad was like, geez.
They were the main event of the world overnight.
It was, their work must have improved a lot.
They just changed their name. That's all it took.
I missed the boat on them.
Yeah. Well, Vern missed the boat. Everybody missed the boat except for Vince. Yeah, he's always.
I'm so excited to hear about Ken's origins a little bit. He was born here in Portland, Oregon, and graduated high school. I find it so fascinating that the guy was born right in the hotbed of Portland, but he never wrestled here even once, as far as I know. And I'm kind of curious to separate if that's true, or is that not true? And,
that's true.
Back on here next. That is true. You never worked in Portland.
How did you end up with in Vern's territory, Ken? Like you went to BYU and all like that, and then you were you'd done the Olympics. And did Vern contact you, or did you contact him, or how did you come to start with him?
Yeah, I was at the World Weightlifting Championships in Columbus, Ohio, 1970. My brother was defensive line coach for the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh yeah, Jack.
Jack. That's when the Vikings used to win football games and go to Super Bowls.
Yeah, and do the job every time.
Yeah, right.
In the Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, they did 4 jobs.
Yeah.
But anyway, my brother was coaching for the Vikings, and Bud Grant, I think most people in Canada know who Bud Grant is.
That was his big break. I think he's out of Minnesota to start with, but
out of the University of Minnesota. Yeah, Bud was a legend up there.
He went to college with Vern and them, didn't he? Or Vern was always claiming that.
Yeah, they both went to the University of Minnesota together. They played football together.
Yeah, the Golden Gophers or whatever.
Yeah. Vern wrestled and played football, and Bud played football and basketball. He played for the original Lakers basketball
team. George Mikan and all that.
Yeah, George Mikan was the big all-star, and Bud was a forward, I think.
Yeah, that was before the Lakers moved to L.A.
Oh, yeah, they originated here.
Yeah. Most people would always say, what the hell do they call them? The L.A. Lakers. There's no lakes down in Los Angeles. But,
there's 13,000 lakes in Minnesota. That's why they call them the Lakers.
Ken, when you were a kid growing up, were you interested in wrestling? Did you go down and watch Don Owens' promotion, or was it not really of interest to you until later on in life?
When I was 10 years old, we were the first family in the neighborhood, 1953, to get a TV set. Every Saturday morning, the whole neighborhood would be in our living room watching Portland All-Star Wrestling. And,
really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I watched wrestling. What the hell's that noise? Is that a dog?
Dog?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my wife.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I think
your
one
wife.
of my dogs.
You guys are killing me. But we watched wrestling every Saturday for years and years. And then a good friend of mine, power lifter that we hung around together and worked out together, Gary Young, he says, "Hey, Kenny, let's go to the wrestling matches." We were 19 years old, and we were bigger than all the wrestlers, probably 10 times tougher, too. So anyway, I said, "Where are they at?" He said, "Downtown at the Armory, at the old Portland Armory." So I said, "Yeah, let's go down there." And we used to train at Sam LaPrinzi's gym, and that's where all the pro wrestlers trained. And, half of them would come in and sit in the steam room for 10 minutes and leave. And
I'm sure they didn't pay. I'm sure they didn't pay dues either.
No, hell, they didn't have any money. The membership fees at that time, 1961, $3 a month.
They'd be bitching about that too, though.
Oh yeah.
I don't recall any wrestlers ever paying to go to any gyms.
No. Sam LaPrinzi was a great guy, but it was less than a mile up the street from my house. So anyway, we were talking to Tough Tony Bourne and Mad Dog Vachon and a couple other guys, and they said, "Well, you guys coming to the wrestling matches tonight?" And Gary says, "Yeah." I said, "I didn't have a chance." That's okay. So the main event was...
You grew up watching guys like Luther Lindsay and Kurt von Poppenheim?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
wow.
Kurt von Poppenheim was one of my favorite bad guys. Yeah, he was a machinist. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, no. I knew that later on in life he bought a bar.
my dad knew a guy that worked with him. Yeah.
Huh.
But anyway, we went down to the Armory, and I can't remember who won that match between Tough Tony Bourne and Mad Dog. It pisses me off. I think about it on a weekly basis. Who won that match? I think it was a double countout. But yeah, that was the first time I went down there. I think I was 19. Yeah, I was home for the summer from college. Yeah.
Now, how come you never came back to work for your home territory here? Was that just the way fate worked out, or?
That's just how things worked out. I'll tell you a funny story. When I started, Vern Gagne sent me over to Japan in January of '73. I was over there for 3 weeks, and then I came back.
That was for the other office, Ken, or I know back then they had 3 offices, and Vern used to always work with the other office was Baba Inoki, and I can't remember who the hell the other, but
I went over for International.
Yeah, I think it maybe was the one. I don't.
It wasn't Inoki. I worked for Inoki later on, and Giant Baba. I worked with both of those guys. But anyway, on my way back, they had me stop in Hawaii, and Lord Blears was not the promoter. The promoter was from Portland. What the hell was his name?
Ed Francis.
Yeah, Ed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ed and Lord, they talked Vern into sending me back there every 3 weeks for about 14, 15 months. I was over in Hawaii every 3 weeks.
Hopefully you're getting frequent flyer miles.
Oh, yeah, I had tons of them.
Yeah,
I had tons of them. But anyway, on the first time coming back in January, end of January 1973, I walked in the locker room, and there was this older gentleman comes over and says, "Ken, how you doing?" I says, "Fine, how are you?" And he says, "I'm the promoter in Portland." He says, "I'm Don Owens." I said, "Oh, yeah." And I told him that story that my buddy Gary Young and I went down to the old Armory about 10 years before that. He said, "Did you enjoy it?" I says, "I was waiting for him to throw the announcer out of the crow's nest." So anyway, I said, "I'd like to work for you." "Oh no, Ken, you won't like it. You won't make enough money. You're destined for the big time." He says, "You're going to work in Madison Square Garden and all the big arenas. You won't be happy here. I just run a small promotion." And I says, "Well, in a few years, I'll get back with you." And he was damn, I'm telling you, he didn't want to use me because he didn't think I would be happy. I said, "Don, I grew up there. I have a lot of friends." I said we could pack the houses every night. And I was in the WWF at the time, back in the mid-'70s at that time.
Yeah.
But anyway, it never worked out. But I did work. Bill, I think it was Billy Jack, and I worked with.
Yeah. How did you get along with him? I broke him in. I actually gave him that name, Billy Jack.
Good.
He came up here with a guy named Scott Ferris. They were sent up from Portland by I can't remember if it was Sandy Barr, one of those guys, you know. And, He was up here. He was a bit of a loose cannon after a while. Is he still around, Matthew, or is he?
Billy's definitely trapped in 1989. Like, he's still very much got a grudge against Vince. It's kind of interesting to see this man who's just kind of trapped in this moment in time at the height of his career, and he never went on to do anything. He's just kind of, couch surfing.
Okay, he seemed to have a meteoric rise and fall. I know.
He was my tag team partner. Don't be saying too many bad things about Billy Jack. I got his phone number right here. I'll call him. He'll fly up there and kick all your asses.
I bet it's
Yeah, I was wondering.
He was a loose cannon.
I often wondered what happened, because he was originally up here with Scott Ferris, and they working a fair bit with. He was sort of being mentored by a guy named David Schultz, who was.
Oh God, Dr. J, what a fucking idiot he was.
So he was kind of.
Loose cannon. He was a nutcase.
What is your guys' opinion on Dr. D? I've been very curious about that. With the Stossel slap, a lot of people say he got a bad rap because all he was doing was protecting the business. Other people say, well, there's a lot better ways to protect the business than slapping a journalist.
Yeah, Stossel, the guy, he slapped him at Madison Square Garden, has a nice TV show every Thursday night.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he mentioned that about 3-4 months ago, I saw it. But Schultz was a fucking idiot. Totally screwed up.
Is he still around too, or is he? I haven't heard.
I heard he's a bodyguard down in. I can't remember if it was Connecticut or down in Tennessee. One of those places.
I think both he and Billy Jack left here around the same time, and somehow they ended up with Vince not long after that. And I never heard much of Billy Jack. He seemed like he was getting pushed for a while, then he just seemed to drop out of sight. I never knew whether he had some issues with. I assume he did.
Drug issues.
Yeah.
He told me that he was fucked up. And he just couldn't. He couldn't conform. He couldn't get along. He was kind of out there somewhere. He's a real personable guy.
Yeah,
he seemed to have some charm to him. When I broke him in up here, he seemed to be pretty. Which is one of the reasons why, my dad and I pushed him. And then I had wondered what had happened to him. And I can't imagine he's in great physical shape anymore. But
he's still getting around all right and everything. It's not that bad or anything like that. It's just, I'm sure if he got off the drugs, he could be a fully functional person again. But, his story is real tragic. His mother committed suicide, didn't know his real father. His stepfather, who basically acted as a real father, was a great man who, unfortunately, went blind and then got diabetes and had to have a leg.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
They ended up in... Yeah.
Oh, I remember him telling me that his stepfather was blind back then, like this is about 83 or something. So that was, I remember him telling me that his stepfather was blind from diabetes or something like that around that time. And but anyway,
I traveled around with Billy for almost a year, and he never told me any of his family experiences, except he kind of kept his wife as a prisoner in the house when he was on the road for like 90 days at a time. And it was weird. David Schultz was the same way, and David Schultz was probably worse than Billy Jack, and so they kind of fed off of each other. Yeah.
There was another big guy that was with Schultz and them up here named Mike Miller, who seemed like a real nice guy. I don't know whatever became of him.
He had his retirement match here in Portland. No, it might have been 3 years ago now.
Mike Miller, I don't think I ever knew him.
He was really, a Portland guy. He was a little bit, here and there, but the only place he ever really got over, as far as I know, was here in Portland. Had a really good run with a guy named Rip Oliver. I know he's worked in the prison system a little bit, too, as a guard. And kind of goes
I was going to say
Portland
as an inmate or a guard.
Definitely as a guard. No, he's a very nice guy.
Okay. Well, I was an inmate.
Maybe you know him.
Yeah, never know. But those. There were so many guys that came in and out of the business. This is kind of like a dead-end business in a lot of ways, because a lot of tough guys, they think they can do this business, and once they get into it, they're they all think they're going to be main eventers and make $1 million a year, and then they wind up in the middle of the card or undercard and not making much money, and they get.
There's an old saying: the cream doesn't always rise to the top in this business.
Right. Well, I talked to your dad, and he asked me about Ted Arcidi.
Yeah, my dad had all those guys in here back in the 80s. He inflicted them on me. I had to train them. Kazmaier, Arcidi, guy named Tom McGee.
And I was talking to your dad at
Malcolm Albrecht,
6 months after
guys,
that. He asked me about Bill Kazmaier. And I said, I know Bill. And so he thought it'd be great to have Ted Arcidi and Bill Kazmaier come in, the world's strongest men. And he said it was a disaster.
I'm not sure if I ever told you, Ken, about that. We had this rigged weightlifting contest up here with Arcidi and Kazmaier, and
no, I don't think you ever told me.
I think we had rigged weights and everything, and Kazmaier and Arcidi hated each other's guts for real anyway. Kazmaier Arcidi claimed that he was the world bench press record holder at 705, and Kazmaier claimed that Arcidi had hitched or some bullshit like that. And I remember they used to have arguments all the time, and they didn't trust each other either. And I remember we had this rigged weightlifting contest where they were going to have to set up an angle with them wrestling, Arcidi and Kazmaier, and they're both claiming to be the world's strongest man and all this stuff. And at some point, I remember Kazmaier fainted during this contest. I'm not sure if he
really.
I remember Pillman and a bunch of those guys were always ribbing Kazmaier, they're like driving them nuts anyway. But it was supposed to be a 2 out of 3 thing with I think it was the clean and jerk and the bench and a deadlift or something like that, and and Kazmaier's supposed to be lifting, about to break the world record, and Arcidi jumped on him while he was supposed to break the bench press world record, and Arcidi, I'm not sure if he blew up. He was hitting Kazmaier with these feeble punches that looked like they couldn't break a bubble, And, and it was a complete abortion, and my dad was, he's saying, who's responsible for this fucking abortion? He's blaming me for it,
Well, he should have. He was going to blame himself.
Yeah. But that was the I remember we were going, geez, they can't even work a weightlifting contest. I thought that would have been what they're good at, but
oh my God.
After Hogan and a bit of that, it seemed like every one of those, it seemed like all those guys were looking for a free ride into the business then. They all thought they could come in as, and they all knew me. They all knew my success, early on, especially with the WWF. Sharky had Hogan and Hawk and Animal by that time, and it seemed like every bodybuilder under the sun thought they could have a free ticket then, under the...
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember we had all those guys up here at the same time, and my dad seemed to like big guys, but my dad by the end was like, I don't know what the fuck to do with it either. And I think we had this other big misfit. He wasn't a bodybuilder, but he was kind of a big clumsy cunt named Outback Jack, and he was. Outback Jack! What a nightmare he was. He was from Australia or New Zealand. Yeah, I remember he was running the ropes and he tripped and fell through and landed on his head, and he came out and was telling Stu, he said, "It's the fucking ring, mate," and Stu went nuts. Yeah. He said, "It's a fucking ring."
Yeah. Did you know that rib that Dynamite Kid pulled on him?
Oh yeah, and where's that, in San Francisco or something? I heard they shaved his head and
shaved his eyebrows, shaved his head in patches. Oh my God, they tormented him and Davey Boy, tormented Outback Jack for 6 months straight.
I heard they gave him some kind of date rape drug or some shit, and he shaved his head and threw all his worldly belongings out the hotel window, and he woke up 2 days later and called Chief Jay or whoever and said that he was still in San Francisco. And I'm not sure if they wrapped him up in the sheet and defecated on him or what.
Well, I think that was in Japan. They got him over in Japan too.
Yeah.
But about midnight over in Japan, they had fucked around with him all day long or all week long. And that next thing they know, Outback Jack is down in the lobby of this hotel in Japan, bare-ass naked, yelling and screaming. And, the people, they called the cops. And, oh, my God, they drove him insane. Yeah.
Well, Ken, let me ask you a little bit more about your career. I know you teamed up with Tex McKenzie to win the American tag straps down in Texas. What was old Tex McKenzie like? That's a name from the past that a lot of people don't know anymore.
Well, Tex was a little awkward. Big, tall guy, 6'7", 6'8". We were wrestling, and I wasn't his partner at the time, but he got in the ring. They had a girl suspended over the ring in a steel cage. And so he gets in the ring and does something, turns around, and somebody had swung that cage. It came back, hit him right in the head, knocked him out cold for 10 minutes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And another time, somebody told me he went to jump over the top rope after a hot tag, and caught his foot on the top rope and head first into the ring and knocked himself out. So, he had a couple knockouts that I know of.
The prototypical double knockouts.
Yeah, right. But I don't even remember being his tag team partner. I remember wrestling him in a single match once. Yeah, he was a little clumsy.
You did a tag, Ken, with Crusher Blackwell. I heard that went pretty well.
Oh, yeah, but we complimented each other really well.
I was intrigued, I was told that you were doing the Sheik, the Arab gimmick with Billy White Wolf for Adnan, General Adnan. And
yeah.
How did that go? I was intrigued with that, kind of, you were Sheik Lawrence of Arabia or something.
Yeah, I was Lawrence of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia was a screaming faggot in real life. T.H.
Lawrence or whatever his name was.
Yeah, right, yeah. But anyway, that was my idea, to call myself Lawrence of Arabia, because I knew the real story of the real Lawrence of Arabia. And he was a ruthless bastard. But anyway, nobody caught it. And I laughed at it. Every night we go out to the ring, and Lawrence of Arabia. I always have to catch myself from laughing. But anyway, but that gimmick was a hell of a gimmick. We made a lot of money.
I heard you guys did kind of maybe the last good stages of AWA, I guess, with Byrne and that bunch. Late 80s or somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, that was 83. 83. Yeah, right. Yeah,
Byrne, Hogan was he in there at that time, or
Hogan was there.
You guys had a hell of a crew then back then before they all jumped to WWF.
Oh yeah, Ricky Martel was here, and I remember working a lot with. I did a lot of singles with Hulk. I wrestled Hulk 32 days in a row.
How was he
all
back
over the
then?
territory. We sold out every night.
He had just done that Rocky III Thunder Lips thing, or he was kind of something like that. I recall at that time. That was before Vince took him, or.
Well, he was with Vince in 1980.
I heard he didn't really set the world on fire at first, you know. That.
No, he couldn't work. He didn't know anything. And I told him, I used to tell him every week, I said, just hang in there. And he had some real stinkeroos with Bobby Backlund, as you can imagine.
Were you there, Ken, when he, I heard some story about Vern and Hulk having some kind of a half shoot in Denver or some shit like that?
No, it was at TV over at Studio 9. Over in Edina, outside of Minneapolis. Vern came in after his tennis lesson one morning. By 11 o'clock, we started doing interviews. So Vern started fucking with Hulk. You're a big guy, but you're not that tough. So anyway, Vern, out of the blue, went for a double leg takedown. Well, Hulk fell right on top of him and just gut wrenched him. All you can see is Vern's feet kicking. That's all you can see. It looked like a big monster on top of a little boy. And then Hulk kind of scooted back a little bit and put him in a fucking front face lock. And that was over. It was over in 10 seconds. And Vern got up and says, "Yeah, the guy's big. I didn't think it was." I said, "Vern, don't fuck around with these young guys." And he said, "What?" Vern was like 58 at the time. And I says, "Yeah, all these guys, they're big, strong, and they're in shape. You're 58 and playing tennis. What do you think you're going to do?" I told him straight out. And he said, "Well, I don't know." He grunts and grumbles. 58 years old, thinks he's still a world champ.
Was that one of the things that led to Hulk leaving, or I heard that, but I didn't know that was true?
No. That was what led to Hulk leaving is when Vince flew into Minneapolis to talk to him about
Vince Sr.
Vince Jr. Vince Sr. had passed away by then. And Junior flew in to Minneapolis Airport. They met out the hotel out there at the airport. And they talked for 2 or 3 hours, and Vince promised him the world to come back and leave Vern. And Hulk told me he didn't want to leave. But Vern was being such an asshole about everything that he just couldn't do it, he had to take Vince's offer. About a week after that, Hulk told me he would have stood back to back with Vern to fight Vince's gimmick off, but it just got out of control. Vern is such an egomaniac about it. Well, nobody's going to take my territory, blah blah blah, and he was saying that for the next 2 or 3 years. Well, what the end result was. He was out of business. When
Hogan left, it seemed like all those other guys left with him. I didn't know that was due to Hogan or whether they did. Heenan and Jesse, and it seemed like a bunch of them. Schultz was in there too, I think, at that time.
Yeah, there was quite a few. Gene Okerlund. There was quite a few. There's probably about 7 or 8. And then I stayed, but because Jerry Blackwell and I were making a ton of money. And I said, so I called Vince, and Vince says, well, as long as you're doing good, just when that runs out, just, give me a call. And so I called him, and, about a month later, I was gone too. And that was in 85.
Do you gentlemen think if Vern hadn't, if Vince hadn't taken all of that talent from the AWA, do you think Vince would have still gone on to have the success he had?
Oh, God, yeah.
He would have?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he one guy doesn't make a promotion, Hulk could have been replaced by 5 or 6 other guys. And but everybody says, "Oh, Hulk Hogan made the wrestling world." Yeah, blah, bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like now, the Hulk's nowhere to be. He's an old man now. He just collected $130 million from some pervert.
Did he ever get the money, or is that just?
Well, it takes a little time to get that money. They're going to appeal and.
The guy that started PayPal, I can't think of his name now, but he was a homosexual, and that same website outed him as a homo back in 2007 or 2008, and so he financed Hulk lawyer bills and everything to go after Gawker, and Hulk wound up beating Gawker in court, $130 million settlement for running around with his wiener hanging out. I mean, that's better than taking bumps for 20 years. Yeah.
Well, to digress a little bit, gentlemen, let me ask you a little bit about when you worked for Leroy McGurk, because I know Leroy McGurk was blind, and I've been so curious to know, how did he know there was a good match or a bad match? How did he know he was paying you the right amount?
Well, Bill Watts was running the office at the time, Cowboy Bill Watts, and he set up all the promotions, all the payoffs and everything. Leroy was completely out of it when I was there. He had his daughter doing the announcing and stuff. Yeah, Mike. And so anyway, but Cowboy Bill Watts had complete control, and he was in the process of buying Leroy out. So it didn't matter if Leroy couldn't see the matches or do the payroll or anything. But I remember Mike used to drive, and somebody else, he used to drive him down to New Orleans and Baton Rouge and Shreveport and those places, But, Leroy he still wanted to be in the arena. But I mean, he didn't have anything to say about it,
I see, okay.
I met him a few times at the old NWA conventions, and he was an old amateur wrestler, my dad said, from
Oh, he was a
Oklahoma.
Great amateur wrestler, yeah. Hell, they have a statue, they have a big
32 Olympics or something like that.
Yeah,
Seemed
they
like
have a big bronze statue when he was an amateur wrestler there in Oklahoma.
Yeah, my dad said he was pretty tough back in his day, and he was a smaller guy, about maybe 160 maybe or something like that,
Yeah, not a big guy at all.
No, my dad said he was, I'm not sure how he ever lost his eyesight, whether it was an accident or disease or what. I never did quite hear, but
I think most times it was an accident.
He seemed to be a big proponent of the amateur wrestlers. Leroy always had the the Danny Hodges and the Briscoes and guys like that were pretty legit,
exactly
tough guys, And there was another guy that he was breaking in Minneapolis around that time. He seemed to rise to notoriety, although I haven't heard that many good things said about him. But Eric Bischoff, did you ever catch up with him in Minneapolis, or was he around when you were there then? Or
yeah, when I was getting ready to retire back in, I had already retired from the WWF in '88, end of '88. I met Eric in January of '89, and that was when Vern was on his last go around, and Eric was the TV announcer. Wayne the Train Bloom and me and Brad Reagans, we'd go down there after interviews sometimes and help him out with interviewing people and
I was
stuff.
Intrigued
and,
that he actually got to the point, Eric, where he had people thinking he was a half shooter. I was always amazed or amused by that, but he seemed to have, I was puzzled as to how he seemed to climb corporate.
Yeah, no, Eric Bischoff was from a little town upstate Minnesota here, up in Bemidji.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's from Bemidji, and he did martial art competitions up there when he was a teenager and into his early 20s. But I don't think he was any kind of a champion. You know, he did know martial arts, but not to the extent that he was a lethal weapon. You know what I mean? But he was a good enough bullshitter that I could see where he could bullshit his way into, you know, making people believe that he was some kind of a Bruce Lee incarnation, you know. But that's all it would have been, you know. He was Vern's gopher.
Yeah.
You know, go for this, go for that, you know, just that's all. He was probably making $50 a week doing announcing and stuff, because I know he couldn't have been making any more than $50 a week because Vern was broke. The promotion was broke. And Wahoo McDaniels and Ray the Crippler Stevens they were doing the booking, and every time they'd try to do something, Vern would shoot it down. And that's why he went out of business. He wouldn't listen to anybody.
Yeah.
So
I was always intrigued as to how Bischoff, I know I had buddies in WCW around that time, like Pillman and Davey Boy, and they told me that Bischoff, they said the only reason he apparently got the job with Turner was they had a lot of these corporate types who were image conscious, and they had some pretty good wrestling guys around there, like Terry Funk and Ole Anderson and all like that, but they were all like wrestler types, and they would show up wearing sweatpants, and they were, you know, blue jeans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Turner Broadcasting wanted some so-called suit, somebody that looked the part.
That's exactly what it was. It was strictly an image deal. Prior to Bischoff coming in there, Cowboy Bill Watts was running the office, and swearing at all the secretaries, telling them to go fuck themselves and get the fuck out of his office, and they couldn't say fuck in corporate structure, and that's what it was all about. They brought an empty suit and placed him in Bill Watts' chair. Instead of bringing somebody in that knew the business and could run the business, they brought Bischoff in.
Yeah, I remember being around that. I know I flew down there, would have been around the time, I know Davey Boy was in there working with Vader, and I think they had Sting and Barry Windham and a few of those guys. But I remember I was down there, and Bischoff was running the wrestling down there, and I remember he did some abortion down there on the beach where he had a dwarf wearing a shark fin and had these guys blow up a boat on the public beach down in St. Petersburg, and a complete total abortion. And
everything he did was an abortion.
And we were all going like, and it cost, they were blowing money right and left with Ted Turner's money, I guess, but it was amazing that he rose to any level because he didn't have a clue. You know, I remember Pillman telling me he said Bischoff was the most inept misfit he had ever seen, and it was kind of like a running joke. You know, he pretty much ran TBS into the WCW into the ground, and then seemed to arrive with Vince shortly after that. You know, so.
I couldn't believe Vince hired him. Well, probably because he had such bizarre ideas and bizarre concepts of what the business was. And, you know, Vince has some pretty bizarre concepts himself, you know. So, but Bischoff had not a clue. He made millions. Yeah. Made millions. Yeah.
It was, it almost makes you wonder what the hell, you know, there's a few blanks that need to be filled in, like what.
Yeah.
Because, none of it adds up as far as how he, you know, rose to anything, you know.
I've always been curious as to the evolution of the bookers there in WCW, because those are obviously the guys who were helping Bischoff along. I know, like, Kevin Sullivan was involved in the book
Kevin
there
was
for
there.
A while.
Yeah,
and that'd kind of be the thing to find out.
Diesel was there, and Scott Hall, and a few other guys got Eric's ear, and they were actually doing the bookings. And Scott Hall was a complete drug addict, and Diesel, what's Diesel's real name, the big tall guy?
Kevin Nash.
Yeah, Kevin Nash. He had Eric's ear, and they were actually running the fucking show. They were making unbelievable money. And
they're paying, like Turner Broadcasting was, they had a pretty big bank account back then, or they seemed to be
I've
giving
actually
big
heard
contracts.
Scott Hall talk about this, and he said that in his contract he had a favored nations clause. So basically, they hire him for $2 million a year, but anyone they hire that they pay more than that, they have to automatically bump him up. So as soon as Scott got in, he brought Kevin in, and Kevin gets say $3 million a year. Now they got to give Scott an extra $1 million every year because of that favored nations clause.
Yeah, well, that's corporate America for you.
Man.
If you need something fixed, just throw more money at it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. That's like Washington, D.C. That's why this country is in debt. We are so far in debt, the people don't understand how bad it really is. And, some has to be fixed. Well, let's say, 2 years ago we threw $1 million at it. It didn't work. This year we'll throw $10 million. Whether it works or not, who cares? It's only tax money.
Maybe Eric Bischoff is a worthy candidate to be Donald Trump's vice president or something like that. Maybe
Donald Trump is much better at handling business than Eric Bischoff.
Donald Trump is a legitimate business guy. He's there to make money, not to waste money. And I think he's our last best hope right now, especially when you compare him to Bill and Hill Clinton. Jesus. Well, Hillary, she's a grandmother now, so you can't really badmouth the douchebag. What a douchebag. Gosh, she's disgusting. Oh, my God, I can't stand to even say her name. Oh. Anyway, fuck her. But anyway, how can people like that be in this position?
How can people like that have other people voting for them? That's what blows my mind.
I guess it's the same question.
Well, that's what it is. It's the populace, the voters that vote for these people. I mean, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are despiteful people. I mean, they are so disgusting. It's just ridiculous.
Ken, what do you think of Donald Trump as a WWE Hall of Famer? I'm surprised I haven't seen him on Raw yet.
He's in the Hall of Fame, but
that leads me to believe I'll never make it to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the implications are, but he's in the Hall of Fame, but Lou Thez is not, and
no.
Dynamite Kid's not, and my brother Owen's not, but Donald Trump and
you know who else is in there? A baseball player.
Oh yeah, Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Pete Rose.
They even put that fucking Drew Carey from The Price is Right in there.
They put Drew Carey in there?
Drew Carey's in there, and last year they put Snoop Dogg in there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
My God, I missed a cartoon.
You just cost yourself your chance at being elected and into it.
I told Vince to go fuck himself at minimum a dozen times. So I think I lost out probably back in '88, '89. It doesn't bother me, trust me. I was inducted into the Weightlifting Hall of Fame 3 months after I was in the '72 Olympic Games. I'm in the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. I'm getting inducted into a Hall of Fame, I think, down in Iowa next month. Lou Thez called me back in '93 and wanted me to come down to Waterloo to be inducted. Shit, now 20-some years later.
Dan Gable and all that?
Yeah, I was in the Olympics with Dan Gable, 72.
He's I hear, a tough little bastard, Ken.
Who's that?
Real deal. Dan Gable, pretty legit.
Oh, fuck yeah. He only lost one match in college. He lost it to a kid from University of Washington after he won 99 matches. He won 99 straight matches and lost one match to that kid from the University of Washington that never did anything after that.
Yeah, Larry Owings, I think's his name, something like that.
Yeah, Owens, yeah.
Ken, I'd just like to say, I know we had a really good talk in Las Vegas. I've been to the Cauliflower Rally Club so many times, and I really enjoyed your talk this year, by the way. I thought that was probably the best.
What did you think of that talk I gave at dinner?
Well, that was absolutely wonderful. And actually, Matthew, you're at the dinner, so maybe you could.
I was at the dinner. I really enjoyed it. But what I liked even more was the rumor that Ken Patera pissed in the hallway outside the banquet.
I did. You know where the bathroom was? The bathroom
half a mile away.
Yeah, it was like 3 blocks. I said, "Fuck! If I go down there, I'm gonna piss my pants." By the time I got across the hallway into that little side room, I'd already pissed my pants. So I pissed in the corner and ran back, and I just barely made it back to the podium in time to be introduced. Yeah, I said, "Why don't you put a porta potty out here in the hallway, or put a half a dozen of them? Right, the goddamn toilets half a mile away." You know how those casinos are. Those casinos are so damn big.
Was this the Bellagio or the
It was the Gold Coast Toilet and Casino.
Yeah,
the Gold
Coast.
Maybe that's why they call it Gold Coast. That's like gold is in piss, you know.
The Golden Shower.
Yeah, that might have been the better name for it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm glad that door was unlocked, because earlier in the day it was locked. Anyway, I ran over there and tried it, and boom, it opened up. I thought, oh, thank God. Otherwise, I would have had to pee in the flower pot.
Maybe they'll send us some free guest vouchers for all listeners on Hart Beat Radio at the Golden Shower Casino or whatever the hell.
Oh, you guys are killing me. Oh, my God. Oh, shit. But, yeah. So anyway,
like I say, you had the all the people in the audience were rolling. Then that was you had several standing ovations, and people were just all the people I talked to just loved your speech. So honest and straight.
Oh, I tell nothing but the truth, because if you try to romance it or tell some fairy tale, everybody will realize that. So I just throw it right out there.
Is it accurate that you were watching the 1952 Olympic Games and you became enamored by Norbert Szymanski?
That's what got me into weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, the clean and press, the 2-hand snatch, and the 2-hand clean and jerk. That's the official Olympic weightlifting back then. There's 3 events: press, snatch, and clean and jerk. I was watching Norbert Szymanski from the 52 Olympic Games. You know when I was watching it? When the first time it came on TV, exactly a year later.
Wow.
Everything was on Super 8s back in those days. So if something happened at the Olympics, you had to wait a year before you could see it on TV. But that's a true story. Yeah, I met Norbert in 1969, then again in 1970. What a great guy.
Cool.
Yeah, just a super guy. Yeah. I have a picture of him peeking out behind the curtains in the 1972 Olympic trials as I clean and jerked 500 and some pounds. I can't remember exactly what the weight was, but it was over 500 pounds. and he had the curtain pulled back there in Detroit. He grew up in Detroit.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
what a great guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you
But
ever come
anyway.
across Paul Anderson, Ken?
Yeah. Yeah,
He
Paul
was
and I
sort of an
became
old
pretty
buddy
good
of
friends.
my dad had him and a guy named Doug Hepburn up here way back when.
Yeah, I knew Doug. I met Doug when I was 18 years old in Vancouver.
I was told that Paul Anderson was unbelievable, an incredible lifter. He was sort of kicking around trying to get into the wrestling business way back in the day.
He did get in the wrestling business. He got in the boxing business, too. He was going to beat Ingemar Johansson of Sweden after he knocked out our hero, Floyd Patterson. He was going to bring the belt back to America. And where was he training? He was training in his chicken coop in Valdosta, Georgia. The problem is the only thing famous about Valdosta, Georgia, is its onions, great onions.
Yeah. I remember Paul Anderson, when I was a little kid, he was up here doing a bit with my dad, and he was kind of, superhuman or something like that, incredibly strong guy. But,
all for the 50s he was. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. I never knew I don't recall his wrestling career, if it ever did get off the ground or whatever. I never heard much after that. But
he did something with Crockett Promotions down in Charlotte. I don't know exactly. I don't remember him being in the ring, but I know he got in the ring to do some boxing or something. But I'm not sure. You'd have to look that up. I have friends that got into pro wrestling because they wanted to get rich. I said, fuck, that's not going to happen. If that's the only reason you want to be a wrestler is to get rich, forget it. You become a professional wrestler because you love the business. And if
that's
you
what
do
my dad
all
always
the money,
used to say. My dad always used to say, Ken, nothing great was ever accomplished without passion. So
that's right. And it's somewhat of a dream. Not everybody is super successful at it. And but it leads to other opportunities. I'm a salesman now. I have been for 20 years. And the reason I have a lot of doors open for me because I was a professional wrestler and I was an Olympic weightlifter. All those build up. They're an asset, not a liability, but an asset. And all those assets lead up to opportunities. When I go call on a new customer, I go in there and introduce myself. 9 out of 10 times, are you the Ken Patera that I used to watch when I was growing up? I said, I sure am. Well, the door always opens up. 90% of my sales are successful because what I did previously, the past 40, 50 years. And a lot of young guys don't understand that, but it's true.
I remember, Ken, when I was breaking into the business, all the veterans always used to say to the rookies, see how easy it is when you sell. So,
yeah.
That was,
yeah, then when you get out, you can sell some more.
Yeah. I'm sure you heard that.
Oh, God,
that was always the operative word amongst the old crowbars.
Absolutely. Sell it.
See how easy it is when you sell.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. And it's a learning experience. Every match you have, every town you're in, all the fans that you meet, after your wrestling career is over, you get a job and you have so much history stored up in your brain that you can bring all that up. And it's interesting. It's interesting to people, right?
One of the most important things a guy named Dutch Savage told me, who was a big star out here in the Northwest. I'm sure Ken knows Dutch Savage. I know Bruce does.
I never met Dutch, but I know of him, yeah.
Dutch told me you got to be really careful because you have a lot of people, and if you've never heard of them, look them up. Find out who they are. If they're feeding you a line of bullshit, you have the internet now. You can find out who they really are. If you've never heard of them and you can't find out anything about them online, they're not who they say they are. Don't listen to them. They're going to hurt your career.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had, I'm not on the internet at all. I've never.
I never go on there. I guess
Facebook
it goes the other way too. There's a lot of guys on the internet who are totally full of shit that maybe manufacture their own life histories and shit too.
Absolutely, they do.
Well, starting about 20 years ago, friends of mine from the East Coast, West Coast, mainly, and some in the Midwest, they'd call me and, did you see that thing on the internet, about you and that? And I said, no, I never go on it. Oh, you ought to read some of this bullshit. I says, why? I said, and I've never read one line of anything on the internet, especially Facebook. I've never gone on to Facebook, Wikipedia, none of that stuff.
I'm surprised you're not on the DrudgeReport.com.
No, I'm not even on the Drudge Report. He's one of my heroes because he's a friend of Rush Limbaugh. But Rush talks about him all the time. But no, I don't do anything on the internet. Nothing. Yeah.
No, I don't either. It's maybe past my generation.
What are you talking about? We got a podcast we run on the internet, Bruce.
Oh. I guess.
Bruce, you're on the internet.
You're killing the fucking show.
I'm committing journalistic suicide then,
Yeah, right. I've always been a pencil and paper guy. And and when I do all my sales, all the other sales guys in the company, they're all on the internet and their iPhones and everything. I have a piece of paper and a pencil. And I'm the number one sales guy in the company.
Yeah. I'm the same.
They can't figure out how I do it without iPhones and everything. I'm talking on a smartphone now. It's not an iPhone, but I still don't know how to even answer the damn thing. I just got it yesterday because my old jalopy telephone took a shit on me yesterday. And I had it for 10 years. It cost me $29.95. And this damn thing cost me $300. I don't even know how to turn it on.
I still haven't seen fit to invest in a cell phone yet or any of that shit.
You don't even have a cell phone?
No, I think.
Well, shit, I
really stepped up. I got a cordless phone, but it's not a cell phone. It's just. That's about the extent of my tech geek, kind of ascension.
I remember those cordless phones. I got rid of mine in 2000. Yeah. I remember those. They're in museums now, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah, the Smithsonian and the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right. Along with Snoop Dogg and Pete Rose and
Medusa,
Donald Trump and all the rest.
Yeah, Medusa too, the one who dumped the belt in the garbage and got elected. She was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame for that. But my brother Owen dedicated his life to that effing.
He's not in the Hall of Fame.
No, so
Vince
speaks
is a
volumes
prick
about the whole thing,
Yeah, Vince is the biggest prick in the history of wrestling. Yeah, if your brother isn't in there, fuck Vince. He's a piece of shit. All the douchebags are in the Hall of Fame, except for the people that really count.
Yeah.
Well, we got a question from a listener. They want to know if Ken Patera has ever ate at a McDonald's since 1984.
I eat at McDonald's at least 5 times a week. The other 2 days I work, I eat at Burger King. That's why I'm 300 pounds plus 20. Hey, I got the sexiest body of any pro wrestler. I mean, I got a big fat belly and flabby tits and buggy whip arms, spindly legs. Shit, I'm ready.
You sound like some of the guys that wrestle on the indie scene.
No, I don't think I could make it in the indie scene.
You might be a little too good of a talker for the indie scene.
Right. It's Nick Bockwinkel had a saying. I can't remember. He has a body like blue twisted steel and sex appeal, baby. So I just caught up. Yeah, that's funny. Tony Atlas used to say, "That Ken Patera, I'm going to jump down his throat, tap dance on his liver, and dare his heart to beat." Then I'd sneak up behind him and hit him over the head with a chair. It hurt the chair every time. But let me tell you a quick story that Lou Thez told me about Ed Strangler Lewis. Ed Strangler Lewis, they had wrestled in L.A. So Ed rented a railroad, one of those plush railroad cars.
Oh, yeah.
And loaded it up with whores. And off to New York they went. I think they stopped in St. Louis and Buffalo, New York, and then they got into New York City. Then they went up to Montreal and then a couple other places. But anyway, by the time they got to New York, and Lou had just made like a $25,000 payoff, which would be what $150,000-$200,000 now. Anyway, by the time they got to New York, Ed didn't have a penny. Didn't have a penny left. All the hookers stole all his money. Oh, man.
And a good time was had by all, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, can you imagine renting a railroad car and go clear across the country with, 15 or 20 whores and a bunch of hanger-ons stealing your money? Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, Ken, I remember my dad, he used to bring up a lot of those old boxers to do guest refereeing and stuff, and he had Lewis. He had Joe Lewis up here back in the early 50s, and it's only a year or two after he had, got out of boxing, and my dad said he had already blown every penny he had ever made by it back then with all that type of stuff, and he was, which is why he was up refereeing and
blew everything.
But,
Now, I've always wondered, were those old boxers, were they smartened up to the business at all?
Oh, yeah. They were, my dad said the best worker of all the ones he had up here was Jersey Joe Walcott. He seemed to understand the business more than some. My dad said a lot
Jersey
of them.
Joe. Yeah.
He had like Max Bayer and Jack Sharkey and some of them, and he said they didn't want to work with the boys. And Marciano, he said, was like that too. He didn't really wanted a payoff, but they didn't want to sell and they didn't want to do any of the wrestling stuff.
They didn't want to do a job. Yeah.
Yeah, but he said Jersey Joe was really good. He understood it, and he'd, make comebacks and sell and let the heels get some heat on him and all that stuff. He had it down. He said Ali was pretty good like that too. He was up here in somewhere in the early 70s when he was kind of before he got back into boxing or whatever.
Yeah, when he was on the outs with the government. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said he was pretty savvy. He knew I think he was around the boys a bit before he ever got into boxing, which is kind of where he got that.
Freddie Blassie.
Yeah,
he was a huge fan of Freddie Blassie. Yeah, I read an article years ago where he said that he got his technique of talking from Freddie Blassie.
Yeah, and Stu told me that like Angelo Dundee and them were. He told me those were wrestling promoters back in Miami, before they ever got into the boxing. They sort of knew that gimmick, the business a bit, So.
Right.
But yeah, he said Ali was pretty easy to get along with too. He was sort of one of the boys, as they say. But most of the others, they'd come up here, take the payoff, and they didn't want anything to do with the wrestlers. They're kind of like looking down their noses at the boys and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah. They're a bunch of assholes.
But as Louis B. Armstrong says, what a wonderful world. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah. But anyway, Ken, I'd like to just take the opportunity to thank you. I always love hearing your stories, and it's real refreshing to hear some honest opinions and some candor, you know, in this business.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all too often
anytime.
you never get that. You know, you get all the ass kissing and the smoke blowing up sphincters and stuff.
All the bullshit. Yeah, all the bullshit. Yeah.
Pretty candid and irreverent. You know, it's reminds me of just riding around in one of the Stu's broken down vans on the road trips about what it was like talking straight from the hip from the boys, you know. So that was fun. Yeah. All the best, and thanks, Matthew.
Thank you, Bruce.